Imagine pouring your entire soul into making a house a home, covering every wall with your art, every room with your heart, only to have it stolen away by greedy relatives who wanted it for themselves. But here's the thing, when you kick out an artist, sometimes the only thing left behind is the most brutal kind of revenge. If you've ever wanted to see karma come crashing down on people who think they can walk over others, hit that like button right now. Subscribe for more stories of justice served, because this one is as satisfying as it gets. There was this house in our neighborhood that didn't look like much from the outside. A cozy little cottage facade, some flowers in the yard, nothing that would make you turn your head twice. But inside was like stepping straight into a storybook. Every single wall was hand-painted with murals of Disney movies and fairy tales, forests of color, magical castles, even scenes of dancing animals. It wasn't just decoration, it was a masterpiece, a living museum of imagination. The artist behind it all was Rebecca, our sweet, eccentric neighbor. She had been an art teacher back in her younger days and later ran a successful paint and sip studio before retiring. But art wasn't just her job, it was her life. Even her furniture carried her brushstrokes, transformed from ordinary wood into pieces of beauty. She'd been renting that home since the mid-'80s, and she had a handshake agreement with the original landlord. The murals were hers, the home was hers to shape, and eventually, she'd even get the chance to buy it. It wasn't in writing, but it was a bond of trust. Rebecca was one of the kindest souls you could meet. She always greeted people with a smile, even when she had to scold me for revving my truck too loud. And when I apologized, she forgave me instantly. That's just who she was. But then, everything changed. The original landlord, who had promised Rebecca the house, passed away before any paperwork was signed. His children inherited the property, and that's when the vultures swooped in. One of the sons visited the house with his daughter. The moment she walked through those painted halls, her eyes lit up. She wanted it, not just admired it, she wanted it for herself. And that was the end for Rebecca. Because she didn't have a formal lease, they used the murals as their weapon. The walls are damaged property, they claimed. This isn't livable. It needs to be fixed. You're in violation. In reality, they just wanted to kick her out. And they did. Imagine standing in a house you've lived in for decades, your sanctuary, your canvas, and being told you're nothing but a squatter. Rebecca was devastated, but Rebecca wasn't the kind of woman to crumble. At the very last minute, she found a new property, out of state. And get this, it had a full art studio on the first floor, almost like the universe was telling her, this chapter is over. It's time to start fresh. But before she left, she faced a choice, leave her beloved house as it was, or erase the magic so no one else could claim it as their own. She chose revenge, and that's when the real story begins. My buddy, who was a professional painter, offered to restore the house, but not in the way those greedy heirs imagined. He needed practice with his new high-powered paint sprayer, and Rebecca gave him the perfect canvas. We moved all her furniture into storage. She stayed in my friend's guest house for free, in exchange for painting him a mural in his living room. Fair trade. Then, we got to work. Week 1, every mural, gone, sanded down until the walls were nothing but blotches of color, like scars of what once was. Week 2, out came the sprayer. Coat after coat of blinding white primer, 4 swipes per wall, smooth and deadly efficient. The house was stripped bare, but we didn't stop there. Oh no, my buddy had what he called Rebecca's Standard Paint. That's our nickname for those soulless house flipper renovations. White semi-gloss walls, depressing gray trim, and dark-toned fake wood flooring. The magic? Dead. The warm wood panels? Smothered in gray? The kitchen counters and cabinets, painted into lifeless uniformity. Even the tiny details, switch plates, outlet covers, were drowned in the same dull shade. Walking inside felt like stepping into a morgue. The vibrant, living, breathing home Rebecca built? Murdered. But Rebecca wasn't finished. The final blow was the front of the house. Remember that quaint little cottage facade? The one that made it look warm and inviting? She gave it away, literally. She let my buddy's landscaping friend rip it down, every wooden beam, every shingle, carefully removed so he could reuse the material elsewhere. In its place, nothing but gravel, sand, and a giant random boulder. It was the exact opposite of whimsical. The house now screamed cold, empty, unwelcoming. A few weeks later, I was back in the neighborhood helping an old neighbor with some repairs. Out of curiosity, I looked across the street. The new owners hadn't moved in. I asked around. Turns out they had shown up with U-Haul trucks, but never unloaded them. They took one look inside, saw what had been done, and, apparently, left. Think about that for a second. They kicked a kind old woman out of her dream home so their spoiled daughter could have a magical storybook house. But instead, they got a soulless, lifeless husk. A house so depressing it made people turn around and walk away. Rebecca? She was already painting in her brand new studio, living her best life. And the greedy heirs? They were left with an empty house, a hollow shell, just like them. So there it was, justice served cold and gray. They thought they were taking over a fairy tale castle. Instead, they got four walls of misery, drained of every ounce of life. And the best part? Rebecca didn't raise her voice, didn't fight in court, didn't even waste her breath arguing. She just picked up her brushes and made sure the only masterpiece left behind was the masterpiece of her revenge. Some people think they can steal joy, that they can take something beautiful just because they want it. But beauty doesn't live in walls or paint. It lives in the hands and heart of the artist. Rebecca proved that, and she made sure the people who tried to take her magic ended up with nothing. If that revenge gave you goosebumps, hit that like button and drop a comment. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? And don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this, we've got plenty more coming your way.